Order, we come to questions. The Minister for Women and Equalities, Sarah Smith.
Question 1.
With permission, Mr Speaker, I will answer questions 1 to 8 and 10 together. This government is determined to break the link between background and success. Through the Opportunity Mission and the Child Poverty Task Force, we will break down the barriers to opportunity for all by setting up every child for the best start in life, helping them to achieve and thrive, building skills for opportunity and growth, so that background is no barrier to success.
Research from the Bloody Good Period campaign shows that 1 in 5 women and girls are now experiencing period poverty. So not only is there a socio-economic disadvantage, but a further gender penalty. This gender-based injustice costs the UK billions some £3.3 billion in lost works annually. So can the Minister tell the House what the Government is doing to tackle period poverty, and are there plans for the task force on this to reconvene?
I'm grateful to my honourable friend. We are tackling the root causes of poverty, Mr Speaker, through measures to make work pay, by boosting the living wage and investing in our public services so that no one, including women, have to go without the essentials. There are also lots of great programmes which support women and girls with period products, such as a scheme in my own department which provides free products in education settings.
Right, let's go to Euan Stainbank.
Mr Speaker, proper paternity and maternity pay are essential for breaking the link between current income and further life opportunities for families. Currently, 1 in 5 fathers do not take the paternity leave available to them because it is financially inadequate. Inadequate paternity leave drives family inequality, increases the gender pay gap as women pick up greater caring responsibilities and lowers household income. Does the Minister agree with me? While the party opposite might think that paid parental leave is too high, on these benches we recognise its crucial role in giving children the best start in life, and what actions are ministers considering to better support parents and families?
I agree very strongly with my honourable friend, and I'm grateful to him for raising this. I agree that while the Conservatives have said that they think parental leave is excessive, we want to give families more choices. And through the Employment Rights Bill, we will make paternity leave available from day 1 in a new job and enable paternity leave to be taken after shared parental leave. We are also committed to reviewing the parental leave system to ensure that it better supports working families.
Natasha Irons.
Mr Speaker, independent research from the Social Mobility Foundation highlights a stark class pay gap, with professionals from working class backgrounds earning on average 12% less than their more privileged counterparts in the same roles, and 1 in 10 people from lower socio-economic backgrounds having higher skilled managerial and professional occupations finding that difficult to come across. But despite this socio-economic background remaining one of the biggest determinants in chances for life for young people in this country, few large organisations monitor it. So will the Minister consider mandating large organisations to monitor socio-economic backgrounds so that we can properly highlight social mobility and give it the attention it deserves?
I share my honourable friend's concern in this area, and that's why we are committed to enacting the socio-economic duty of the Equality Act, and we'll give more information on this in due course. Of course, I would encourage as well, Mr Speaker, businesses and organisations to collect data where we can, so we can take action to tackle some of those deep-rooted inequalities that my honourable friend describes.
David Williams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and Merry Christmas to you and yours. As we know, there's a clear link between low household income and poorer educational outcomes, leading to reduced future earnings. In Stoke-on-Trent, median pay is nearly £70 less per week than the England average. Will the Minister agree with me that tackling regional income inequalities is critical if we are to promote social mobility and to enable all of our people to succeed in life?
I agree with my honourable friend. It is absolutely crucial that we take action on regional inequalities, and he champions very strongly this cause on behalf of his constituents. He'll know that we have set out an ambitious plan for the future of the minimum wage, and we are taking action to make sure that all workers receive more money in their pockets to spend. But he also draws our attention to the importance of children having a great start in life, and that's why we as a government are committed to making sure that more children than ever arrive at school and get the support that they need, so that by the end of reception they're ready to move on to the next stage in their journey.
John Glen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In the City of London, one of the big challenges remaining is to ensure that maximum number of people from the widest socio-economic backgrounds can get into that industry. Recently, I met with Progress Together and Vincent Keaveney, a recent Lord Mayor of London, who's made massive progress to understand that the data collection process does not need to be expensive. Will the Secretary of State get in touch with her ministerial colleagues and the Financial Conduct Authority to to alert them to the opportunity to collect data at little expense that would really raise the profile of the challenge remaining?
Yes, Mr Speaker, I'd be more than happy to do that. And I do thank and congratulate the right honourable gentleman for his work in this area, for the attention that he has drawn to it, because I think it is a cause that we can all get behind. I think there is also more that employers can be asked to do, as he describes, but also more that we as government can do. And that's why I think it's also important that all young people have access to good work experience and careers guidance so that they understand the full range of opportunities that are out there in the world.
Jess Brown-Fuller.
Speaker, women carers are far more likely to reduce their working hours or give up work entirely to look after their loved ones, which is putting them at a significant financial disadvantage. Does the Secretary of State agree that the Lib Dem policy to reform social care and to introduce free personal care would keep more women in work for longer?
I understand the important point that the Honourable Lady raises, and she will know that through the budget we did increase the threshold around carers allowance and also delivered a big boost in terms of the payments that people can receive. But I do understand the wider challenge that she sets out around social care. That's why the Health Secretary is taking action to make sure that we do transform social care across our country, and I'm sure that ministers will be happy to discuss that with her further.
Alison Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill, introduced to the House yesterday, sets out to unpick every aspect of the school reforms which have seen English children rocket up the international league tables in reading, maths and science. How can this government possibly say they want to break down barriers to opportunity when they're reversing the reforms which have transformed the lives of the most disadvantaged students?
Mr Speaker, I don't know which bill the Honourable Lady has been reading, because it's not the bill that we presented to the House yesterday. I am determined to drive high and rising standards right across our school system. I would also just say to the Honourable Lady that she might be satisfied that 1 in 4 disadvantaged children leave primary school without reaching a good standard in English and maths. I am not happy about that, and I'm not happy about the fact that 1 in 5 children are persistently absent from school and that we have inherited a SEND system in crisis. We will turn this around. We will deliver better life chances for all of our children.
Kirsty Blackman.
Earning women are far less likely to have sufficient private pensions than their male counterparts. Is this why the Secretary of State has decided that governmental responsibility ends when working age ends?
Mr Speaker, the Honourable Lady does raise an important point around some of the differences we see in pensions. I'm sure I'd be more than happy to pick that up with the relevant minister to see that she receives the full response to the question she asks.
Right. Mims Davis, Secretary.
Mr Speaker, Merry Christmas, and here is to festive tipples in our locals. But it's certainly not a cheery Christmas for the waspy women that Labour have betrayed. Now, hospitality is at the heart of our economy with a diverse workforce. 17% Equality Act disabled, 20% ethnic minority groups, and over 54% of the sector's workers are women. Can the Secretary of State tell the House what conversations have taken place between her and the Chancellor on the chilling effect on future earnings due to the Labour government's jobs tax, higher business rates underpinned by £3.4 billion of costs increase, according to Hospitality UK, which will drive down future earnings?
I agree that the hospitality sector is absolutely crucial to our economy, and at this time of year when many people will be working across Christmas, I do pay tribute to them and for their work and thank them for their contribution to our economy. On the wider question that the Right Honourable Lady raises, she knows as well as I do that this government inherited a £22 billion black hole from the party opposite. We have had to make some difficult decisions in order to stabilise our economy and to get it back on track.
Jacob Collier.
Free, Mr Speaker.
Sorry. Merry Christmas, Mr Speaker. So this government is relentless in our efforts to halve violence against women and girls, and in just 5.5 months in office we have launched Domestic abuse protection orders in selected areas, outlined new measures enhancing our response to stalking, announced £30 million extra funding for victims of domestic abuse and their families in safe accommodation services, and this is simply the beginning. We will continue at this pace.
Jacob Collier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Violence against women and girls remains a serious issue, worsened by online abuse, misinformation and harmful rhetoric which risks increasing violence. In my constituency of Burton and Uttoxeter, the charity SARAC provides vital support to survivors while working to challenge these attitudes and promote cultural change. Given the crucial role of charities like SARAC, what steps is the Minister taking to support such organisations, and will she visit them with me so that she can see the amazing work that they do?
I thank my honourable friend, and at these questions I end up halfway around the country, but I will absolutely be delighted to come. And what I know, having worked in this particular sector, is that we will not tackle violence against women and girls without a strong and sustainable model for ensuring that our specialist services are protected, and that is what we will work on in the long term rather than what has always been a short-termist approach.
Diamond.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Ultra-realistic deep fake porn is increasingly being used to target women, and I know the government agrees because they committed to criminalising it in their manifesto. And for the sake of victims, this intimate image abuse needs to be tackled without delay. So why on earth did they not back Baroness Owen's bill to ban it in the House of Lords last Friday? Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Lady is a great talker. She talks a good game, but for the sake of women, when is she going to deliver?
As somebody who has went into the Home Office and found a load of things that have been dwindling for 3 years undone from people saying things at this dispatch box, I take umbrage. But what I will say is that this government will, in this session, do exactly what we said we did, and we will ban deep fakes. And as a victim of it myself, I understand the importance.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Christine Jardine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and of course, Merry Christmas. We know that violence against women and girls takes many forms: verbal, physical, emotional, financial, at all ages. But one of the most insidious forms is that online abuse. But with technology developing faster than legislation can respond, the ways that it's used, like deepfakes, is also developing faster than legislation can respond. And the use of generative AI to create fake intimate images leaves many women vulnerable. I know that this is something that the Minister cares deeply about. So can she tell us what steps the Government are going to take to ensure it's tackled properly? And will she work with Cabinet colleagues to create a new online crime agency to deal with this threat?
I thank the Honourable Lady, and funnily enough, I'm meeting with Cabinet Office colleagues later today to talk exactly about how we make sure that the violence against women and girls strategy is across different government departments, and without doubt one of the most important pillars in that is how we're going to deal with the online harms. We all wait with bated breath to see how the legislation and the new regulations play out, but what I would say is that we don't draw a line at the legislation that already exists, and where we need to adapt, we will.
Aldridge.
For Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, with permission, I will answer questions 4 and 11 together. Conversion practices are abuse. They have no place in society and must be stopped. The Conservatives promised to ban conversion practices 6 years ago and failed to deliver. They then dropped it from their manifesto this summer. We're getting on with the job and are working hard on legislation to deliver a trans-inclusive ban that offers protection from these harmful practices, whilst also preserving the freedom for individuals to explore their identity and respecting the important roles of those supporting them. We will publish our draft bill later this session, as outlined in the King's Speech.
Mr. Speaker, conversion practices trade and prosper on fear, prejudice and intolerance. Charities in Western-super-Mare and across this country do amazing work to bring communities together to promote tolerance and tackle prejudice. Can the Minister outline what support this government is providing to help charities deliver this vital work in constituencies like mine?
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend, the member for Western-super-Mare, is right that civil society plays a unique role in challenging prejudice and enabling more people to access the opportunities they deserve. A good example is Gallup, the UK's leading LGBT plus anti-violence charity, which provides a number of government-funded support services, including on conversion practices. Their helpline is confidential and available to anyone who is at risk of, is experiencing, or has been through a conversion practice.
It's Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I held a meeting in Parliament with a panel of trans people talking about their experiences of so-called conversion therapy, and their evidence was harrowing. I want to thank the MPs and the Minister that attended to listen to them. I'm leading on a report for the Council of Europe to ban these aberrant practices across Europe, and I'm pleased to hear from the Minister that we'll soon be setting out the legislation. But will the Minister tell me, will the legislation be fully inclusive without all exceptions so that we can refer to it as best practice for all countries to use?
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, I pay tribute to my honourable friend for her work in this field, including on the Council of Europe, and I can assure her that we will deliver on our manifesto commitment to bring forward a full, trans-inclusive ban on conversion practices, protecting LGBT plus people from abuse. We are committed to listening to all viewpoints and concerns with respect, and to engaging with a wide range of stakeholders, organisations and all LGBT plus communities. And I was very pleased to join her at the event she mentioned, and we will be having further engagements with parliamentarians and stakeholders in the new year.
Rebecca Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The previous government committed to a parent-first approach to guidance. As part of the government's review of the statutory RSHE guidance, will she make it clear that parents should be involved in decisions affecting their children, including if they are gender questioning?
But as she would be well aware, we are looking at the consultation responses and we will respond more fully as is appropriate.
Campbell.
Speaker, in rolling out any legislation, will the Minister ensure that mature adults who want to take part of their own volition in faith-based settings to discuss gender issues will not be restricted or inhibited from so doing?
Well done.
I can assure the honourable gentleman that we are looking very carefully at how to describe the sorts of behaviour that would not be criminalised by the ban.
George Southwell.
Question number 5, please, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Government is committed to breaking down the barriers of opportunity for all and to raise equality throughout government so that our missions deliver for everyone. We are working on our plans to legislate, to introduce mandatory ethnicity pay gap reporting for large employers and enshrine in law the right to equal pay for ethnic minority people. These measures were announced as part of the Equality, Race and Disability Bill, on which we will consult early next year.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I commend the government's commitment to tackling discrimination. For example, introducing ethnicity pay gap reporting for large employers. In Ilford South, nearly 80% of my constituents are from black, Asian, minority ethnic backgrounds, a community disproportionately impacted by conditions like diabetes. What's the government doing to tackle health inequalities and disparities amongst minority ethnic individuals?
Mr. Speaker, he raises a vital issue on behalf of his constituents, and the cross-government approach we are taking to tackle the root causes of health inequalities is central to our health mission. This includes prioritising prevention and shifting care closer to communities. On type 2 diabetes, the NHS has developed a focused engagement campaign to raise awareness with those groups who are most likely to develop the condition on which he may wish to connect.
John Cooper.
Mr. Speaker, Merry Christmas and a good New Year when it comes. Mr. Speaker, I was astonished that the vacillating Prime Minister did not take the opportunity to rule out definitively blasphemy laws in this country. They have no place in modern British society. This is the land of Monty Python and the life of Brian, after all. Will the Minister take the opportunity to do what the Prime Minister would not and rule out completely any opportunity to introduce blasphemy laws?
Yes.
Sarah Owen, Chair of the Select Committee.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Speaker. Following the summer's racist riots, the Runnymede Trust reported Islamophobia is reaching fever pitch. mosques attacked and threatened, cars vandalised with Nazi swastikas. All this has left many Muslims feeling unsafe, but it is especially true for women. Women have reported having hijabs pulled off, racist abuse and threatened with physical violence. This is something we will have heard from all our own constituents, but the extent to which Islamophobia and misogyny is systemic in the structures we rely on means Muslim women bear the brunt of the intersectional hatred of the far right and, sadly, sometimes mainstream media. Does the Minister see the need for an agreed definition of Islamophobia and understanding of the impact of Muslim women?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Islamophobia, sexism and racism have no place in our society, and she will be aware that we have committed to strengthening protections against dual discrimination. My colleague, the Minister for Safeguarding, is also working on the issues addressing hate crime against Muslim women. I'm also pleased to see the work that my Honourable Friends Committee is going to be undertaking on the specific challenges facing Muslim women in the UK today, and I look forward to following the work of that committee.
Speaker, I recently met with a group of women from Bangladeshi origins in my constituency who are desperately trying to find work, which is not easy, especially after the decimation of the textile industry in my constituency of Leicester South. As English is not their first language and all potential employers not having the capacity or the time to meet the DWP's demands for a written proof of job application and interviews, they're finding it extremely stressful and affecting their mental health, especially when threatened with sanctions. Does the Minister agree with me that more empathy is needed to be built into the system?
I thank the honourable gentleman. He's raised an important point, and I will ensure that he has a meeting with the relevant minister to discuss it.
Show Secretary of State Clerk continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Secretary of State said that background should be no barrier to success. But what message does it send to our young people when they're told there are some job opportunities they cannot apply to solely based on the colour of their skin? Equality in this country must mean equality of opportunity, not putting some people in society on a pedestal above others. So will the Minister write to all public bodies to make it crystal clear that the state should not be sanctioning race-based hiring policies?
She will be aware that it is illegal to discriminate in the way that she has described, and I will certainly ensure that that the question she has raised will be followed up with my relevant colleagues.
Those in writing, we come to topicals.
Question 1, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this month, the government set out our plan for change, a plan to raise living standards for everyone. Everyone should have access to warm homes, a revitalised NHS, opportunities to thrive at work and to feel safe on our streets. And I am proud to be driving our mission to ensure that background is no barrier to success and that every child has the best start in life. This week marks the end of Disability History Month, during which my right honourable friend, the Minister for Disability, has met with disabled people and disabled people's organisations and set up a network of lead ministers for disability across every government department.
Those in writing.
Last week, I visited Northamptonshire Domestic Abuse Services. We discussed, as Domestic Abuse UK estimates, that reported incidents spike up to 20% during the Christmas period. Can the Minister tell me what the government is doing to ensure that those affected by domestic violence can get support at this time of year?
Can I thank my honourable friend for that important question and pay tribute to the work of Northamptonshire Domestic Abuse Services and everyone working across domestic violence and sexual abuse services this Christmas. I know from my own experience working in such services over this Christmas period how busy it can be, but I want to send a message to all victims that support is always there when you need it, even at Christmas, and the police will always respond where they are called, where there are serious concerns. People should know that they are not alone at Christmas, Mr. Speaker, and that help and support is always available.
Show Secretary of State Clerk continue.
Mr. Speaker, turning a blind eye to the risks of vulnerable people in the name of inclusivity is anything but compassionate. We know that cousin marriage significantly increases the risk of childbirth defects and locks women into coercive relationships. The Right Honourable Member for Basildon and Billericay brought forward sensible legislation to ban this practice. Why won't the government support it?
Mr. Speaker, the government will of course always keep such issues under review, and I'll make sure the Minister in the relevant department speaks with the Right Honourable Lady on this topic.
Absolutely. Lee Pitcher.
Mr. Speaker, please. Merry Christmas. Recently I attended an RNIB event highlighting challenges faced by blind and visually impaired people navigating past parked cars, forcing them to walk into the road. My inspirational wife is one of those people who takes her life into her own hands every time she walks into the road. Can I ask what the government will do to help make our streets safer and make them more navigable in the future?
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend raises a good example of the kind of topic that we need to work across government on, and I was pleased to chair the first meeting of the cross-government disability lead ministers yesterday. The Department of Transport has consulted on the problem that he's raised, which can be very serious for people with a sight impairment, and the Department is considering the options for tackling the problem, I very much hope that he'll let me know what he finds out in his walk around the constituency shortly.
Gregory Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's always nice to get a cheer, Mr. Speaker. As a former treasurer of the Oxford Union, I was disgusted that 3 weeks ago there was a debate that descended into a mess of anti-Semitism, where the students voted in a majority that they would not have reported Hamas's plans if they'd known them prior to the 7th of October attacks. Will the Secretary of State write to the Oxford Union and say that anti-Semitism has no place in our society, and especially not at our universities?
The government could not have been clearer in terms of our position on anti-Semitism. There is no place for anti-Semitism in our society, nor for any form of racism. That applies whether it's within educational settings in any other part of our society. That's been made very clear indeed. Thank you.
That completes questions without compliance.